What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Welcome to the Fantasy Championship. We are in the finals. For those of you guys that are watching this video, if you're not in the finals, definitely appreciate you watching if you're not. But if you are in the finals, this is what we played for. This is what we did all that research back in April, May, June, July, August, whatever. Maybe you were doing research back in March like me because I'm a complete degenerate. But this is the week that matters. This is the week where we take home our fantasy championships. If you've been asked already to split your fantasy championship pot, get that shit out of here. That is weak shit. We play to win in fantasy football. Now, normally you guys are used to this video coming out on Wednesday, the running back rankings for week 17 of fantasy football. Of course, we do have an extra week now in the fantasy playoffs with the extra week of the NFL season being added, but we do not have Thursday night football this week. So I decided to push it back a day, get a little bit more news, and a good thing I did because we did get some news come in today. So I figured I'd drop this today instead of yesterday, and the wide receivers will be tomorrow instead of today like it usually is. So our rankings are free. If you guys want, I'm going to just go over my top 24 running backs in this video today. If you want to know about some deeper plays or whatever, you guys can check the rankings in the description. They will be updated as frequently as possible. If you do enjoy this video, please hit the like button. It helps us out tremendously. Comment any of your thoughts down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit the join button if you want to become a member of the channel, get access to priority comments and emojis, badges, etc. We are going to hit the intro and then we're going to get right into this. Okay, so as always, for the last time, and I tweeted this out if you guys want to see a bigger view of it, but the Week 17 running back matchups, as you guys can see them on the screen, you guys can see that Ronald Jones, DeAndre Swift, etc. have great matchups this week, while Alvin Kamara, James Conner, etc. do not have great matchups this week. I will leave this above me the whole time, so as I'm talking about a player, you can make reference to it, see if they have a good or a bad matchup, if I mention it or if I don't. We're going to start with running backs 1 through 6, as we always do. And Jonathan Taylor, King JT, as he is, henceforth known, is the RB1 on the week for me this week, going up against the Raiders at 1 p.m. on Sunday. If you guys somehow survived the down game from Jonathan Taylor, because I imagine a lot of you guys that had Jonathan Taylor were carried by Jonathan Taylor throughout the duration of this year. But if you did survive last week, even without having him, maybe you had T. Higgins or whatever, and he helped carry you to the fantasy championship last week, Jonathan Taylor is in an absolute smash spot. And the Broncos running backs last week, they disappointed against this Raiders run defense, but that was more a matter of them not running a whole lot of offensive plays. And if you see the past couple of running backs that this team has gone up against, Chubb, the Chiefs running backs from CEH, Darrell Williams, Derek Gore, whoever, Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick on Monday night a couple of weeks ago, and Joe Mixon the last, 4 to the last 5 games. This Raiders run defense is giving it up to the fantasy running back position. So if you have Jonathan Taylor, he's in line to have a monster game. All those guys, as I mentioned, performed in a big spot against this Raiders run defense, and I expect Jonathan Taylor to do the same. Number 2 is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was officially activated from the COVID-19 list on Tuesday, I believe, and which is big time pain for me because in our Bitcoin league, I needed Dalvin Cook last week and I lost by 2 points because Alvin Kamara couldn't get me 10 points on Monday Night Football. And I really could have used Dalvin Cook because I started Devontae Freeman instead of Dalvin Cook because of that. So in his last 4 games against Green Bay, Dalvin Cook has totaled over 22 PPR fantasy points in every single one of the games. And last year, he actually had like a 50-point performance against the Green Bay Packers. So this is not a good run defense. They're pretty good defending the pass, but defending the run, they do have some problems. And Dalvin Cook has exploited them in years past. So I expect him to do the same again. He is my RB2 on the week. Running back 3 is Austin Eckler. I kind of already talked about the fact that Dalvin Cook was activated off the COVID-19 list. Austin Eckler also activated off the COVID-19 list. Eckler had gotten it done against this Denver Broncos defense a couple weeks ago, but he did it through the air. He had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown the last time that they played the Denver Broncos, but that was on the road. This one's at home. 100% confidence in firing up Austin Eckler, despite the tough matchup that he does have on the ground. I expect him to get it done with no issues. Number 4 is David Montgomery. I'm expecting David Montgomery to probably be the chalk this week in DFS for those of you guys that are playing. Maybe if you're out of your fantasy semifinal or your fantasy championship matchup, you want to play some DFS this week, David Montgomery will be the highest owned running back if I had to guess. The Giants ranked bottom 5 against the run, and they rank bottom 5 on offense in first downs and time of possession. So this kind of sets up very well for David Montgomery and the Chicago Bears as a team that have kind of struggled to move the ball themselves. They're going up against an offense that's even worse than them. So the fact that the Giants will be going through a lot of 3-and-outs, probably some turnovers here and there. Playing running backs against the Giants has worked out for that reason, especially also due to the fact that they're a top 5 rushing defense matchup because they're not very good at defending the run either. And that has also resulted in teams giving top 5 opportunities to their fantasy running backs against this Giants defense. So David Montgomery is in a great spot. If you guys do play DFS, he's probably good chalk this week because it sets up very well for him. Of course, we know what his workload is, what his role is at this point in time. So he is a guy that I'm starting very, very confidently this week. Number 5 is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has 3 straight games, sneakily, of 21 plus opportunities. Kareem Hunt is still a question mark to play in this game on Monday night, and I doubt that he does, to be honest. Unfortunately, I do face Nick Chubb in my fantasy championship matchup for the league behind me with the trophy, but this is just such an easy matchup for Nick Chubb. The Steelers have been absolute piss against the run since DeAndre Swift and the Detroit Lions carved them up a number of weeks ago. They have not defended running backs since then, and they probably won't defend them in this game. Now, the only concern is the fact that Ben Roethlisberger, it sounds like this is going to be his last game at Heinz Field. Maybe they come out and play with some heart for him, but either way, Nick Chubb is a guy that I think you could fire up with confidence as a top 5 running back this week. Number 6 is Joe Mixon. We saw Joe Mixon last week get a lot more work as a receiver against a pass-friendly matchup in the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs are about league average against the run and pass. So the game plan for the Bengals is probably just to play their game, play offense, run the ball, pass the ball at a pretty even split. The Bengals got to be flying high, though, after that performance with Joe Burrow throwing 500 yards last week. I'd imagine because we know what Mixon's role is at this point, that they're probably going to have a pretty solid outing, and I think this game could be sneakily high scoring. Not sneakily at all, but I think this game is probably going to be very high scoring as well. Let's get into running back 7 through 12. These guys are a little bit more fringe than the guys that I've already kind of talked about. But Ronald Jones takes the crown basically as the guy with the easiest matchup in week 17 because he has the Jets defense in a hugely positive game script, right? The Bucks are 13.5-point favorites against the New York Jets. I think we can both, kind of agree that the Bucks are a top 5 NFL team and the Jets are a bottom 5 NFL team. And in the fantasy championship last year, we saw Tom Brady actually throw for 4 touchdowns and like 300 yards in the first 2 quarters against the Detroit Lions, who at that time were basically where the Jets are right now, and then leave in the third quarter, not to be seen again. And, the starters were pulled. Blaine Gabbert came in. Unfortunately, I also faced Ronald Jones this week, which is not great for me, but I think Rojo's probably going to be in for, a 20 carry workload with the projected game script that we have. I just don't see Zach Wilson being able to hold up to the pressure that Todd Bowles is going to throw at him. Probably going to be some turnovers, short fields, goal line opportunities, all that in store for Ronald Jones this week. So he has got to be a guy that is in your lineup if you picked him up, 2 weeks ago on waivers. Number 8, Alvin Kamara. He faces Carolina. Obviously, Alvin Kamara let us all down last week, including myself in our Bitcoin league. But if you did manage to save your week with Alvin Kamara on your team, he should be in for a pretty decent matchup. Now, I know Carolina has been pretty great against the run all season, but they have been a lot more run friendly in recent weeks because they rank so poorly on offense. Very similar to what I talked about with the Giants. They just can't move the ball. They can't generate first downs. They turn the ball over constantly. And that's, resulting in a lot of offensive plays for the opposing side of the ball and a lot of run plays because those teams are up in games. So Alvin Kamara should be in line to see a pretty big workload in this one. So I have no real concerns about starting Alvin Kamara this week, despite the down performance last week, assuming that Taysom Hill is the starter. Now, if Ian Book is playing, then I'm probably not going to be starting Alvin Kamara as a top 8 running back. But if Taysom Hill is the starter, I have no problem starting Alvin Kamara this high. Number 9 is DeAndre Swift. Now, this is a very interesting option because a lot of you guys that have DeAndre Swift, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing because I have DeAndre Swift on my, home league team, and I have been following this situation very, very closely for the last number of weeks because I have him. I am personally starting him in my championship matchup, assuming that he plays, which it sounds like he will, because on Tuesday or Wednesday, Dan Campbell came out and basically said that he expects him to play. It sounds like he was close last week. He did get in a limited practice all week last week. He'll probably get in at least one full practice during this week. I'm not expecting him to be limited either in his workload whatsoever because it is an upper body injury. It's not like a hamstring injury or anything like that. And again, it's only Thursday, so follow the news closely. Maybe we'll hear something that DeAndre Swift is expected to be limited or expected to get his full workload. Whatever the case is, this is where he sits right now, assuming he is playing and getting his full workload, because this Seattle Seahawks defense is brutal against the run. And DeAndre Swift, before he got injured, was seeing just season highs in usage, snaps, rush attempts, routes, targets, etc. So he is a guy that if he plays is going to be in my lineup no matter what. And I'll tell you, later in the video who I'm starting him over just in case you guys are curious. Number 10, we have Najee Harris. It's been very inconsistent in terms of efficiency out of Najee Harris all season, but the volume dictates that you have to start him. Again, it sounds like Big Ben is playing his final game at Heinz Field of his entire career. So maybe the old fart has something left in the tank and can move the ball on offense and generate some scoring opportunities for Najee Harris in his final game. I'm sure he's, this is a different game for him on a personal level. So maybe Najee Harris has a better game than usual, but nonetheless, you have to start him because of his workload. Number 11, and this is where the first bit of news came out, really, as I was kind of writing these notes, is Antonio Gibson for now. Antonio Gibson obviously let people down last week because, he was questionable coming into the game. A lot of people sat him for that reason. And of course, once he actually played, they got blown out so bad against Dallas, who was just a far superior team than the Philadelphia Eagles, who they're playing this week. But nonetheless, Antonio Gibson left a series or two against the Eagles 2 weeks ago and still managed elite bell cow usage. So if he does play, I am starting him. But here's where the news came. And this happened today, right before I was about to record this. Antonio Gibson apparently is trending toward missing this game. And the reason is because he was downgraded to a do not practice today. He practiced in a limited fashion with a hip injury yesterday, but did not practice today. So that is usually not a good sign. It usually means he re-aggravated something. It usually means that he is likely to miss this game. So again, follow the news closely if you have Antonio Gibson. But as of now, I'm probably going to operate under the assumption that he is not going to play this week. And no, I'm not going to rush out and start Jarrett Patterson or Jonathan Williams or anything like that. If you're desperate, you could start those guys, but I think you should have better options if you're in the, fantasy championship. For example, for me on my bench, I can easily pivot to Rashad Penny. I can easily pivot to Darrell Williams in the absence of Antonio Gibson. So hopefully you have an option like that you can pivot to. Maybe you have Devin Singletary or something like that. But closing out the top 12, we have Aaron Jones. He is inconsistent by nature. Of course, you guys know this, but when he gets hot in a game, Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers will feed him. So I will not sit Aaron Jones. And again, I have to play against him this week on the same team that this guy has Ronald Jones and he has Nick Chubb. He also has Aaron Jones as well. So Aaron Jones was actually out the last time that they played Minnesota earlier this season, and AJ Dillon got a big workload, but Aaron Jones has to be in your lineup. You know that this guy is capable of 30-plus point performances, and if he's on your bench in the fantasy championship for that performance, then you're gonna hate yourself, basically. So unless you have a very well-rounded running back core, if you want to start Ronald Jones ahead of him, I understand. But other than really that, I'm not going to mess around and start Sony Michel over him or anybody like that. Aaron Jones needs to be in your lineup because we know what he's capable of when he's on the field. Now, before we get into running backs 13 through 18, we got to hear a word from Manscaped. They are our sponsors. Of course, make sure to check out everything that they have to offer, and you guys will be hearing about everything that they have to offer right about now.
Hey lads, this FSC video is brought to you by the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming, Manscaped. This holiday season, equip yourself or a loved one with the premier men's groom product available on the market. Manscaped is the ultimate gift, and they're here to change the men's grooming game for good. Don't go into 2022 without the premier men's hygiene product available on the market, including the Performance Package 4.0, which will be sure to leave the men in your life excited for this new year. This hygiene bundle includes the Lawnmower 4.0, Weed Whacker, Boxers, Travel Kit, and liquid formulations. The new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof with advanced skin-safe technology to reduce against nicks and cuts, something your Jingle Bells will most definitely appreciate this holiday season. The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer can help you whack those gross, unwanted hairs in your ears and nose, and this product also has the proprietary skin-safe technology to help prevent against nicks, snags, and tugs. The Performance Package also includes Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant to protect against chafing, as well as their Crop Reviver Ball Toner, which will keep your boys fresh at all times. On top of everything, they've even thrown in the Shed Travel Bag to carry your goods and the Manscaped Anti-Chafing Boxer Briefs to hold the entire package together. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BUSH at Manscaped. Promo code BUSH will get you, as I said, 20% off plus free shipping, but we're not done with the great news this holiday season. Check manscaped.com for applicable deals throughout the holiday season, such as this deal on the Performance Package 4.0, and remember to use code BUSH at checkout for the added discount of 20% off and free shipping. Whether you're gifting for your brother, your dad, your significant other, they'll all thank you for the crisp delivery and attention to detail that Manscaped has shown in their products. Again, we appreciate the support for the Fantasy Stock Exchange by our friends over at Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for their shower time routine by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code BUSH. That's 20% off plus free shipping. It's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with promo code BUSH. Clean those ornaments and make sure your tree is desirable this Christmas.
Okay, so big thanks to Manscaped. Again, thank you for sponsoring the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Now, Running back 13, as it stands right now, is Elijah Mitchell. Now, we don't actually know if Elijah Mitchell is going to play for sure yet, but he is practicing Wednesday as I'm kind of recording this. That's the most recent practice report that we have because they're a West Coast team. They haven't practiced yet today. He should again practice in a limited fashion today. If he's a full go, he's got to be this high because Elijah Mitchell, this one's subject to change, but we've seen him come off of an injury already and perform for fantasy. In week 11, he was coming off of an injury and he received 27 carries in week 12. We've seen Justin Jackson. We've seen Rashad Penny. We've seen James Robinson perform against this Houston Texans run defense. And I think Elijah Mitchell, if he's on the field, is going to be a smash play this week. So Elijah Mitchell, if he plays, is a guy that I'm absolutely willing to trust, even coming off of a multi-week layoff. Number 14 is Javonte Williams. Now, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, for that matter, probably burned some of you last week, but the Chargers have been ran on 386 times this season, which is about 26 times per game, and they are the worst defense in the league in rush defense DVOA. I cannot sit Javonte Williams this week in my league that I have, and again, I already kind of talked about it, but I have Javonte, Michelle, Rashad Penny, Antonio Gibson, DeAndre Swift. Now, I have to start 4 of those 5 guys, and I also have Darrell Williams on my bench as well. But with Gibson probably being out, that makes it very easy for me, but Javonte Williams has to be in your lineup because you cannot live with a blowout game out of Javonte Williams. Yes, Drew Lock is the starting quarterback. It's not Teddy Bridgewater, who was their starter last time that they actually beat the Chargers at home. But this matchup is just so juicy. It's so good. And if they fall behind, Javonte Williams has the receiving workload. He's game script proofed. Even if the Chargers get ahead in this game, I still believe in Javonte Williams to return high-end RB2 value. So he is a guy that is in my lineup. As I talked about already, as I've kind of talked about all season, this is a guy that gets the receiving workload. So yes, him and Melvin Gordon share snaps. They share carries, but if they get into a negative game script and the Chargers run away with this one, it will be Javonte Williams that is on the field catching passes in this game. So Javonte Williams in my lineup, as is RB15, Sony Michel. He might get some backfield competition this week because Cam Akers, surprisingly could be back this week and could play after only 5 or 6 months since he ruptured his Achilles tendon. Even if Akers plays, I am still starting Sony Michel with confidence because I think Cam Akers is going to be a guy that gets in there maybe for a few series if he's on there. But I don't think they're going to game plan him as the starter because Cam Akers is coming off a ruptured Achilles tendon off of 5 to 6 months of rehab. I don't think they're going to hand him a huge workload, which makes me think that Sony Michel is still a great start. Of course, you guys know what Sony Michel has been getting. I'll show it on the screen right now. This is a guy that has consistently been getting 80+% of the team snaps. And even with Darrell Henderson on the field in recent weeks, he's still been the guy that has been the primary starter in this backfield. Josh Jacobs, my RB16, finds himself in another game similar to last week. It's a good defense that he's playing against the Indianapolis Colts. Slow-paced offenses, slow-paced game, but he still will get his workload, as you guys have seen on the screen. He has been very good in terms of a workload-reliant running back too. So he's a guy that I'm still willing to start as a solid RB2 this week, although he probably doesn't have the highest ceiling because this game probably won't be very high scoring, and he's playing against a pretty good defense. So running back 17 is Ezekiel Elliott. He scored twice last week, but again, he pretty much, that was all he did because he only had 4.2 yards per touch. Completely big yikes. If you wanted to start a backup running back over Ezekiel Elliott, if you guys need a bigger ceiling, because Ezekiel Elliott's ceiling is completely reliant on how many touchdowns he scores because he's just simply not efficient enough at this point in his career and at this point in the season. So I don't blame you if you want to start a Rashad Penny, a Darrell Williams, a Devin Singletary over a guy like Ezekiel Elliott because he's just simply not been very efficient. The only reason I have him this high at a running back 17 is due to the pace of this game, due to the potential high scoring nature of Cardinals versus Cowboys. Now, the Cardinals haven't been very good in recent weeks. Now, maybe they can't, keep up on the scoreboard with Dallas, but either way, I think you're looking at either a positive game script or a shootout in this game. I don't think the Cardinals are probably going to upset the Cowboys. So I think Ezekiel Elliott still as RB17 for me in my rankings is still a fine start. But if you need a higher ceiling or if you need more upside potential from big plays or whatever, I don't mind starting some of these backup running backs that I'm about to talk about over a guy like Ezekiel Elliott. Now, closing out the top 18 running backs is Rashad Penny. He's been great and efficient every time he's really gotten an opportunity in the past couple of weeks. But there's always a risk with the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions on paper look like a very, very good matchup, but the problem is they've actually really shut down a couple of good running backs in recent weeks. As you guys can see on the screen, on Thanksgiving, they shut down David Montgomery. 2 weeks ago, they shut down James Conner. Last week, they shut down Cordero Patterson. Yes, they've allowed some pretty big performances like Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Alexander Madison, and the 2 Broncos running backs in recent weeks, but there is still a risk with Rashad Penny. Number one, he could get injured mid-game because he's Rashad Penny. He gets injured all the time. And number two, the Detroit Lions could just play up to their competition, play a little bit better. And I'm not really convinced that the Seahawks are even that much better of a team than the Detroit Lions because they've been very, very bad themselves. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking with Penny. I don't think he's a complete smash play, but I do think he is a good play this week. Now, getting into the 19 to 24 range, and then I'll get out of here. I'll kind of wrap up some of the backfields that I didn't talk about. Again, if anybody that I don't talk about is on your team and you want to know if you should start them, check out the link in the description for my rankings. They will be updated as much as possible heading into Sunday. Number 19, we have Darrell Williams going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. CEH suffered a shoulder injury last week. And from week 6 to 10, when CEH was not on the field, we saw Darrell Williams hover around 60% of the snaps. He was commanding 4+ targets in every game. And it actually included a 100-yard receiving game against the Las Vegas Raiders, as well as like a 10 to 15 carry workload and the inside the 5 work as well. So Darrell Williams, a guy that is not a crazy good, running back by any means, but he plays for the Chiefs. This game is going to probably be high scoring against the Bengals. And Darrell Williams should have a pretty feature workload if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, which I probably think he is going to be. So Darrell Williams, a guy that I think you can absolutely start this week. Again, I currently have 5 running backs, if Gibson doesn't play, that are in contention for my 2 running back slots and my 2 flex spots. Currently, right now, I have DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, Rashad Penny, and Sony Michel in there. But Darrell Williams is a guy that I could potentially throw in there instead of one of those other guys, depending on some later news later in the week. Number 20 is Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is in a great spot this week. Great matchup. He's getting a big workload, as you guys can see on the screen, and he's definitely someone who is viable in this game. Against the Atlanta Falcons, they've just been brutal against the run, and even with Zach Moss active last week, we still saw Devin Singletary get the primary workload, the routes, the targets, etc., 2-minute drill snaps, inside the 5 work, everything that you wanted to see Devin Singletary get if you were starting him, he got. So Devin Singletary, even in a brutal matchup last week against the Patriots, was much better than what you probably anticipated, and he has a great matchup this week. So he is a guy that is definitely in play for me. Number 21 is Chase Edmonds. James Conner has been officially labeled as a game-time decision. Basically, he is practicing in a limited fashion with a heel injury, I believe. The Cowboys have been very, very good against the run, though, which makes me very nervous about Chase Edmonds. May not be alone in this backfield if James Conner plays. If both of these guys are active, I don't think either of them is a smash play. Because like I said, the Cowboys defense has been very ferocious, especially up front against running backs. So if James Conner does play in this game, I don't think James Conner or Chase Edmonds crack my top 24. But if James Conner is out, then Chase Edmonds probably fits himself into this range, maybe a little bit higher, maybe up to like 18, 19, as I talked about already. But that's pretty much where I'm at with that Cardinals backfield. In James Conner's absence, though, Chase Edmonds had 92% of the snaps and pretty much got all of the work. So obviously we know if James Conner is out, that Chase Edmonds is going to get a big workload. The question is James Conner going to be out, and how much does that matter against such a good defense? We'll have to wait and see on that. Number 22 is Melvin Gordon. Still a solid low-end RB2 play, especially with the rushing matchup that he has. He's going up against the Chargers just like Javonte Williams. And last time that they played the Chargers, both of these guys were viable, and this matchup could play itself into the Chargers being very high-paced on the other side of things, making the Broncos throw the ball a little bit more or have to play keep-up, which is not good for Melvin Gordon. But on the other hand, it could be another situation where we see this game very close. It's a divisional matchup. The Broncos won the first one, and Melvin Gordon was heavily involved in that first game, even coming off of an injury, and he's been heavily involved in recent weeks as well. Number 23 is Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson's regression hit like a Mack truck. Basically, the low-touch workload wasn't sustainable the whole season, and the volume was never going to be able to, uphold the top 10 running back status that Cordero Patterson had been for the majority of the season. But his efficiency has taken a big-time hit, as has his workload. So Cordero Patterson, again, not a guy that you need to start. He is in a okay situation, okay spot that you can start him. But the Bills' run defense, even though it's been bad as of late, their pass defense is good to the point that the Falcons just might have a problem moving the ball at all on offense, and that doesn't bode well for Cordero Patterson as well as Kyle Pitts and everybody else involved. So closing out the top 24, we have Saquon, the absolute bum, Barkley. Probably one of my biggest misses all season has been Saquon Barkley. He's been a guy that I've told you guys to buy low. He's been a guy that I really like in Dynasty. He's been a guy that I thought would just be a lot better this year, and it really hasn't happened. I'm somehow in the finals with this guy in our listener dynasty league because I have Deebo Samuel and Devontae Adams and Antonio Brown and all these great wide receivers, Mark Andrews, to help carry me to the championship. But Saquon Barkley is a guy that is not a must start by any means. This is a guy that is getting a solid workload, but not a guy that is being very efficient with it. The Giants offense is a complete dumpster fire. as well. They can't generate first downs. They can't generate points. And Saquon Barkley has very, very little touchdown upside and big play upside with the way he's been playing right now. So Saquon Barkley, a guy that I don't think you have to start, but I think you can if you have no other choice. Now, some other backfields that I didn't talk about that are going to find themselves into this range as well. The Patriots backfield, Ramondre Stevenson has been practicing as of Wednesday. So I'm going to assume that he's probably going to be back this week, which makes Damian Harris and him low end or high end RB3s as opposed to, mid RB2s where Damian Harris probably would have been if Ramondre Stevenson was out again. I already talked about the Cardinals situation. We're waiting some news on James Conner, 49ers situation as mentioned as well. And same goes for the Antonio Gibson situation. This is something that we need to monitor, especially tomorrow. But we did hear a report that he is in danger of missing Sunday's game. And if he is out, then we're going to have to make other plans as Antonio Gibson fantasy managers like myself. So if you guys didn't hear your running back's name called, check the rankings in the description. They will be updated very frequently. Like this video if you enjoyed. Comment any of your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to support us in any way, you can go to the join button on our YouTube page and become a member, a tone setter of the YouTube channel. Or you guys can deposit on Underdog Fantasy using promo code FSE and play some of their playoff best ball. It's in full swing right now. They're very, very fun to do. Basically, you draft a team, and the more you get right in terms of your predictions for the Super Bowl and the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, then you're going to have, better best ball outlook in those. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Me and Danny will probably do a best ball draft on Saturday on a live stream or something just to show you guys in case you guys are curious. But check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code FSE if you're interested. Peace out, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?